The Taiku project was inspired by Rabbi Aaron Yehoshua Pessin, who wrote a book called Taiku. And that sefer, that book, Taiku, is a compilation of all the Taikus that are found in Talmud Bavli, 317 Taikus. The reason why I found it interesting is that going to yeshiva and growing up, I learned, as many have, that Taiku is when a discussion in the Talmud comes to an unresolved question, when there's no answer to the question, and basically we have to wait until Mashiach comes until we find the answer. It's an acronym, generally understood as Tishbi Yataretz Kashas V'Bayos. Tishbi referring to Eliyahu Hanavi, who is supposed to come right before Mashiach comes. So Tishbi Yataretz Kashas V'Bayos. Tishbi meaning Elijah the prophet will answer Kashas V'Bayos, and that means Mashiach is coming. And I had a question in a previous video: why is it that Elijah answers the questions if Mashiach is the teacher of Klal Yisrael? So Mashiach should really answer the questions, but maybe he does. Maybe Elijah does also. Anyway, that's not really the main point. The main point of this project is that I wanted to. I started a project that is sort of in line with this work, which is compiling all of the Taikus, because, if we really believe that that's true, there's discussions about this, about Taikus. I've seen many different ideas about it, but if we believe it's true, that it will be answered, then we should know it. In case, if imagine you can ask someone who knew all the answers, they say, ask, what would we have on the tip of our tongue, whatever, however the expression goes, how would we have readily available the answer? So that's the idea. Now, it's fascinating that I decided to do this right now. I've been doing this for over a year already, but to actually record the Taikus themselves. And we're in the middle of the Omer time, and we're in the Omer time. When we count the Omer, there's different Kabbalistic qualities that are associated with the weeks, like Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes. These are in the tree of life, in the Sphira, the Sphirot, and so we're now in the week of Netzach, but this idea came on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, and which is Netzach Shabbat Netzach. It's actually exactly the middle. We're right at the middle point of the whole counting of the Omer, and just at this time, it's Netzach Shabbat Netzach. The gematria of the word Netzach is 148, which is also the gematria of someone named of the name Nachman. And I met someone who I haven't seen for a very long time, maybe a couple of years. His name was Nachman. His middle name is Nachman, but he's also into Rabbi Nachman, which is interesting. He's which is gematria 148, but Netzach is equal to 148, and we happen to be on the Netzach of the Netzach, which means it's the exact middle. It's day 25. There's 50 days. You count 49 days, but then 50 days of Shavuos. So 25 is like the exact middle. But we find ourselves in the 148th Taiku in all Shas. That's astounding. That's like the cosmos are aligning or something. Like the planets are aligning, or it's just completely. It's right in line with what I've been doing all along, and my reason for counting everything. And that's part of the reason behind the name of Joshua Sofer, the counter, or the writer. I mean, a Sofer is someone who writes, but The Sefer Yetzirah actually makes a distinction between all the different variations of meaning of the Samach Pei Reish. It's a L'spor, to count, Saper, to tell, and maybe there's one more, I can't remember, one variant of that. But number and word. So when they match up, it's a fascinating thing. So that's basically the introduction to this Teiku. And we'll call it Gem 48. Gem 148. The 148th Teiku in Talmud Bavli is found on in Bava Metzia 78a. Interestingly, I was born in 78. Bava Metzia 78a, sixth line from the top of the Amud, and the fifth word on the line. That's important to see, like you can visualize 6 lines down, fifth word into the line. It's very visual, this whole thing. It is the daf that belongs to the 38th day of the moon. What does that mean? Well, if we read recently that this is the Rosh Chodashim, Nisan is the first month, and so really maybe we should count from Nisan. That's what I've been doing. I've been counting. So the 8th day of Iyar was this is Thursday actually, right? I mean, yeah. So it's 38th day of the moon. So 38 days, 8th of Iyar is 38 days from Nisan. It's also the 244th day of the moon. Why is that? Because Rosh Hashanah, 244 days have passed since Rosh Hashanah. And it's also the 137th day of the sun, meaning 2024, versus 5784, 2024. And that corresponds to Thursday, Yom Chamishi, 8th of Iyar, and it's also Thursday, May 16th. And that was, in the daf of that day is 78, Bava Metzia 78a, which states, Pshita, Boi lezavone, b'mea v'lo eshkach. The Gemara discusses a similar case. It is obvious that if one wants to sell his property for 100 dinars but does not find a buyer, v'lo eshkach, v'zavim b'masayim b'ka'ayal v'nafik azuzeh, lo kani. And in actuality, he sells the property for 200, and he goes in and goes out for money. The buyer has not acquired the field, as it is clear that the seller performed the transaction due to financial straits. But if he wants to sell his property for 100 and does not find a willing buyer, and the case, I don't understand why. It seems like it's backwards. Okay, I'm just reading it here, but the ka'ayal v'nafik azuzi lokani ela I boy lezavuni b'mea v'lo eshkach I trach havi mashkach v'lo trach v'zav m'asayim ka'ayal v'nafik azuzi mai k'morcha sedeu Dami, oh lo, Teiku. Okay, that's the unresolved question. So I first have to understand the question. I mean, the Gemara discusses similar cases. It's obvious that if one wants to sell his property for 100 dinars but does not find a buyer, and in actuality he sells the property for 200 and goes in and goes out for money. I don't know what that means. Goes in and goes out for money. The buyer has not acquired the field, as it is clear that the seller performed the transaction due to financial straits. But if he wants to sell his property for 100 and does not find a willing buyer, and the case was that if he troubled himself, he would find one, and instead he did not trouble himself and sells his property for 200, and then he goes in and out for money, what's the halacha? Is he considered like one who sells a field due to its poor quality, or not? No answer was found, And therefore the Gemara states that this dilemma shall stand unresolved. Now, I don't even understand the question, so I'm still holding by what is the question. But it's something to talk about. It's something at least to even ask about the question and to know that it's an unanswered question. Thank you.